Today we're going to be talking about some winter sowing. Not, mending jackets or patching pants or whatever, but actually planting seeds in containers outside. Not like terracotta pot containers or anything like that, but actually using plastic containers like milk jugs, water jugs, any type of plastic Tupperware that you no longer use anymore that isn't super stained. I got a total of 28. Some of them were half-gallon milk containers, some of them were water jugs. The milk containers needed to be soaked a little bit longer, so in this video I'm just using gallon water jugs. Already used of water, recycled to me instead of going to the recycling plant so that I could do this video and this gardening experiment. You're going to need a list of things. You're going to need plastic containers, a box cutter or some type of sharp cutting utensil. You will also need seed starting mix, a container, like a bin or a bowl, big enough to have soil and water be mixed into. You will need labels, a Sharpie or a paint marker, and you will need tape. All right. I recommend getting a box cutter or some type of utility knife that locks. The one that I'm using is fairly old and doesn't lock. What you will do first is you will take the bottom of the bottle and you will stab it to make drainage holes. Some people recommend using a screwdriver tip that has been heated by a lighter, so then you just have to poke the hole through and then that's it. I didn't want to somehow damage any of my husband's tools, so box cutter. You will need to make all of these holes for the drainage because you need your plants to drain. That is a huge thing for any plant you're going to use. Once the bottle has been thoroughly stabbed, you will need to cut the bottle in half horizontally, leaving just a tiny bit of area near the handle of the bottle you're using, if you're using one with a handle, and that will be the hinge of your greenhouse. So when in the spring, when you're ready to open it up, you can do that. And during this, it'll be a lot easier getting soil in this way rather than siphoning it in a funnel, As you can see, I'm not great at cutting in a straight line. And I learned after a few different bottles of the jaggedy edges and just really great form I had, that laying it on its side, you had more control of the bottle and the knife and how you could cut. So lay it down when you cut. Next, you're going to need the seed starting soil, the bin, and the water. The seed starting soil that I'm using is Miracle-Gro because that was the cheapest option near me. There are other brands of this you could order online, but this is the one that I needed in person to grab. You need seed starting mix rather than regular potting soil because seedlings need a fluffier soil for their roots to really establish when they're coming from seed, according to the internet and everybody else that has done this video is what I have found out. However, some people do use potting soil, but as it's my first time doing this, I'm gonna go with the tried and true seed starting soil. Now you're gonna add enough water so that way the soil isn't dripping wet, but it's not dry. You want it to be that sweet spot that a lot of people don't like the sound of the word of, so I'm not gonna say it. But you want it to be not damp, not dripping. You want it to be moldable and not dripping. You can make a snowball out of it, but it's not leaking through your fingers. Your soil has been thoroughly mixed together. You're going to be putting it into the jug on the bottom of the jug. You will also need to keep a lip about maybe a ½ inch to an inch because you want there to be room for you to be able to get your plant out without ruining the entire plant when you go to open it. Now the fun part, the seeds. Make sure you're paying super attention to what your seed packet says. Now before you buy seeds, you should make sure that what you're buying is what you actually want for your area. If you're doing annuals, that's different. But perennials, you need to make sure you're getting it for the right zones. That's why you should look up your zone through Google. Another really great way to see what zone and things that you can plant in your zone is using the Proven Winners website, because they can tell you what kind of plants they have that would work well in your zone. Other areas and other websites also exist. These are just the ones that I've tried. Paying attention to your seed packet, you need to make sure that the perennials or the annuals or whatever it is that you are planting says cold hardy or frost hardy if you are going to be winter sowing in January. Because you want to make sure that your seedlings are getting the best start and that frost isn't going to completely ruin all the time and effort you have just put into this. So, read the seed packet. It'll also tell you the depth and the spacing you need for your seeds. In the jugs, I planted about between 4 and 6 seeds per gallon container. This more higher amount of seeds were for things that needed small spacing or more of the creeping ground cover type. So that means my Alyssum and my creeping thyme didn't really have that much space in between the plants, but I want that to be a larger plant. The Diane flower seeds do have a little bit of instructions on them, and I love the little bags that they came in, and inside the tiny Ziploc bags for the teeny tiny little seeds, there is a wax packet, which is super helpful for getting the seeds onto my hand or back into the thing. It's great. These lady lavender seeds actually say to refrigerate before you sow them, which means it's perfect for winter sowing. I also decided to do some seeds that I didn't get from Diane flower seeds because as an addict of gardening, I bought more seeds. So I actually planted columbine, oregano, lemon balm, as well as those might be the only ones that I planted that were good for spring flowers and things. The other things that I have, the other seeds I got were actually like a giant packet of sunflower seeds, and those I have to wait until the spring to actually do. This step will be especially helpful, and that's labeling. I have these labels from Purpea. I bought them from Home Depot. They're a very thin, kind of flimsy plastic, but I think they'll be fine sitting in the container. I used a Sharpie to write the name, and I also labeled the outside of the container in Sharpie because just in case. It's just easier to know because then you'll be able to know which one of these are the spring plants that you really need to plant sooner. As you are already pre-wet your soil, you do not necessarily have to water your seeds afterwards unless you're using like a spray bottle or if you have one of those fancy spraying things. You don't want to water it too much using a watering can or a cup or anything like that because then your seeds will come out of the soil and float, and then all of that effort you just put in to make sure that it was exactly the right depth following the instructions in the seed packet kind of just go to waste. Now the most annoying part of this project for me personally was the tape. I bought flex tape thinking that it would be the perfect solution because it's good for not having water go through. However, I didn't really research this part of it enough, and that's why I said at the beginning, make sure you research your stuff, because flex tape on this very delicate project did not work for me. This is not any kind of shade being thrown at flex tape. It's just not made for this type of a project. Because I was having such a tough time with it, and because it like hurt my fingers because it kept getting stuck to my hands, I bought Gorilla Tape, which worked so much better for this. You could use duct tape and other things like that. However, I wanted something see-through to make the most of this little greenhouse, and I trust Gorilla Tape. So this is the finished bottle look before bringing them outside or tying them together. Before you bring them outside, remember to remove the lids because the top of your container is where the water will come in, like any snow, rain, humidity. Now this is for if you're using bottles. If you're using other plastic like containers that have lids, you will just have to stab the top of the lid. Or I brought them outside for the last step. I tied them together with these gardening twist ties from Purpea. I bought them at Home Depot when I went to get the Gorilla Tape. This is going to make sure that your plants don't get knocked over by the wind, because if they get knocked over by the wind, all of that time and effort has gone to waste. Bring them outside, make sure they're in a full sun location. Now, right now in January, the fullest sun location in my yard is my front yard, and I have a neighbor that is trying to sell their house. So I don't want to make it look like we live in a dump. So I put these in the backyard in front of our shed, it does get at least 6 hours of sun. I wish it got more. So we'll see how this actually goes. But as spring gets closer and closer, the sun will move more and that area of our yard will get more sun. So fingers crossed that this all works out. And when you're placing your bottles outside, make sure that you're putting them in a safe location from wind or animals. We don't have that many animals that come through our yard, though in the last year we've had a family of foxes, a mangy coyote. We have some bunnies that come in and out, but we don't have a dog or anything that would like dig through there. So if you do, just make sure to think about that. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you do and want to see any updates on this, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I will also be putting out a video in the next few weeks where I am going to be trying 3 different methods of starting seeds inside. I can't do that until 3 or 4 weeks from now because I am trying to make sure I'm going by the start indoors by X amount of weeks before last frost date, and the Farmer's Almanac has our projected last frost date to be April 23rd. So I'm trying to be a little following the rules in that aspect. I hope you guys are staying safe and warm and are planning your spring gardens. Let me know in the comments down below what your zone is and if you plan on doing any winter sowing. If you do, and you take pictures, you can tag me on Instagram. My username is written down below, and I have a list of all of the plants that I planted today also listed down below. Bye! Have a good day! Feed your kittens! Play with them!